How is it that we have people serving in the most powerful halls in this nation who are not only ignoring our Constitution, but taking actions directly to undermine it?
Yeah, like when they tried to halt the peaceful transfer of power from Donald Trump to Joseph Biden, who ended up winning the election in 2020. Not good, folks. Like, pointing out the hypocrisy of these people means nothing. And it especially means nothing to Tulsi Gabbard, because she is quite literally an empty suit. I think she does have some actual firmly held beliefs. Like, she is genuinely homophobic, transphobic. She's probably a little racist, stuff like that. But she's only doing this right now because it's a way for her to keep the lights on. It's hard to say, like, how much we can really take from this, because pointing out the hypocrisy of Republicans means nothing, because they live in a post-truth world. They don't care about reality. They don't care about facts or logic. They have a fan fiction that they want to create in real time and then force us all to believe in. And, you know, their denial of reality shouldn't become our problem, but eventually it ends up being our problem. But right now, I'm just doing this for fun, I guess, because I am a sick and twisted individual. Is being called a racist for liking Rudy Giuliani hate speech? These are the questions that science is too afraid to answer, man. And I'm glad somebody's asking them. People always say trust the science, but they can't even wrap their heads around this question. Alphabet Mafia. Who are you referring to? At Charlie Kirk, at tpusa. Hello, grandfather. How are you doing? Nice you were able to log on to YouTube this time without any help. Jesus Christ. This program is currently unavailable. Censorship. These they're done. They're not even cooked. They're overcooked. This guy gets it, though. The Mars Conference. No sign of intelligent life. Real. Yo, the God thing is getting absurd. For fuck's sake, take it easy, everyone. Joy emoji. 2 replies. God is the alpha and the omega of everything. There is no absurdity found in him. Believe it. Millions of patriots everywhere and well-respected intellectuals here wouldn't be talking about him were it not true. Ask him yourself. He answers. The schizophrenics have entered the chat. It's God with a capital G, and no, we won't take it easy. Save yourself. Wow. What? What are we talking about here, man? What happens in this conference? From Piano Man for Rent, and I quote, I don't want porn for myself, but banning porn is a form of banning free speech. We don't have to indulge in porn, we don't have to like it, and we don't have to agree with it. We have the ability to choose whether or not we want something, and when we start wanting to make a choice with someone else, we step closer to being I believe that as long as porn is not breaking laws such as with age or violence, people who are wanting porn should be able to have access to it. Wow. Well, I mean, this is consistent, it seems, at least, with your, what I can surmise and speculate is, your moral system. Congratulations. You've done the bare minimum. Oh, there's responses to it, yeah. So are you also pro-choice as well, then? It's a good question. That's a good question. Because given this framework you've laid out, I feel like he kind of has to be. No, you could say that he gave the caveat that as long as porn's not breaking laws, then it's fine. But he would then consider that, if he's a true red conservative, that abortion is killing a human, even though it's not. And then that, is illegal already because it's murder. So then, no, it shouldn't be allowed. There's a loophole there. The poop hole loophole is always available. You should have the right to say that's what you think. That's free speech. Porn doesn't fall under people's opinion. I mean, that's just your opinion, man. Wait, what about movies then? Do movies, like non-porn movies, do they fall under free speech laws? I think they should. There's a lot of things you could say in a movie to try to deliver a message or a point of view or a way to think about something. And if they're not covered by free speech laws, they could get their movies shut down. And that's censorship, man. So as long as this porn isn't breaking any laws, you're for censorship here. Modern day porn is increasingly violence, physical and mental, against women, so that should be illegal. Violence against women should be illegal, I agree. But are you're just gonna blanket all modern day porn is this way? Because for one, that's not the case. It might just be the porn you're looking at. You kind of get what you're looking for a lot of the time. So maybe you should look inward, think about why it is that's the only porn you're seeing. But that said, making it illegal wouldn't solve that problem. In fact, it could make it worse because now the porn market is deregulated. Because people are still going to make it, they're just going to make it with less regulation, with less oversight. There already isn't that much, but there's a little bit in that porn isn't illegal. So if you push it underground into the black market, there's so much more room for bad shit to happen. It's like making drugs illegal, instead of like trying to help people with their addiction. It's like if people are getting this drug and you make it illegal, they're probably going to try to find it through other means, through third-party channels. And at that point, if they're used to getting their prescription opioid, but then they can't afford it anymore, so they then go onto the black market to try to get their prescription opioid, and they get some shit that's not exactly what they're used to or too high of a dose, it could kill them. This is how a lot of people are dying from fentanyl overdoses as well, because fentanyl was flooded into the market by the pharmaceutical industry as an opioid painkiller, and it is an absurdly strong drug to the point that it's like, what is it, like 5x heroin strength or more? Some crazy shit like that. And, your regular, so say you're even like addicted to heroin, unfortunately, and the heroin that you get, you're not able to get it anymore. It's already illegal in this instance. And then you go and get heroin from somebody else, and you're not sure what's in it because it's not regulated, it's deregulated. It's in, in the black market, and then you get something that's cut with fentanyl. So then your regular heroin dose, which, the state should be trying to help you to get over being addicted to that substance to begin with, but then your regular heroin dose, if it's, got fentanyl in it, could just kill you. Very easily is how a lot of people die from fentanyl overdose. Similar things can happen to a variety of industries if you make them illegal and push them into the black market. This happened with prohibition as well. When alcohol was made illegal, it literally just bolstered the coffers and power, and political power at that, of the mafia. Because they were the ones who were able to get alcohol to people. They were making all the money from it. And they were able to muscle their way into the police unions and the politicians' wallets in order to keep their illegal practices going without issue. And that wasn't just limited to the manufacture and sale of alcoholic beverages. It also ended up leading to a variety of other violent crimes, like theft, robbery, murder, etc. Reason being, so for instance, if you have a dispute with a person who sold you alcohol in the modern day in civilized society, you bought alcohol at the local Walmart. If you have a dispute with them about what you bought, you can go through the legal system to get that dispute worked out, whatever it is. Right? If you're injured by it, for instance, in some way that's not warned about, et cetera, if there's a defect that has a problem, if it's just not the correct thing, you can go through the legal system to fix that problem. However, if you have a dispute with somebody who sold you alcohol when it's illegal, who are you going to go to? Well, you can't go to the legal system because you're doing something illegal already. So you have to find another way to resolve that issue, and that often leads to violent crimes being committed, either by the person with the issue or the people who sold the thing to them when that person comes and complains about it. If things are legalized, you solve problems in a courtroom, wearing a suit and tie. If things are illegal, you solve problems with guns. Seems like you would want to make sure that people can at least go through the legal system and get these things fixed, while also funding a variety of programs that help people not be addicted to a variety of substances. But of course, conservatives are against any of that. For as much as they love their history and want to return to tradition, they don't know how to learn from it. Thank you very much, Radham, for the raid. I hope you had a good stream. What is up, everybody? I was gonna look at this Tulsi Gabbard tpusa conference. We might still do that, but then I got sucked into the comments because it was funny. Specifically this conversation. So let's see this response then. So Nancy Chrisman replies to Proud Vermin. So are you pro-choice as well then? I believe there has to be a limit to when you can have an abortion. If abortion is not legal, we will go back to the age of coat hanger abortions. Oh, this person gets it, kinda. And these type of abortions not only kill the baby, but the mothers themselves take a risk of their own life by infection and also potentially becoming infertile. Back alley abortions can often lead to, if it doesn't kill the person who is pregnant, it can make them infertile so that they can never have children again. And, conservatives are always talking about how people should be having babies, so that's not really the best outcome either. It's almost like abortion being safe, regulated, legal is the play here if you want to maximize the good for people in society. But of course, we're talking about conservatives here, and they don't want to maximize the good for people in society. They want to maximize the good for a few select people in society that they often aren't even a part of, because it's usually just mega wealthy people that they end up doing the work for by voting against their best interest. But they also want to maximize the suffering of a variety of people that don't look like them. And that is the major thing that they care about, because that's how they base how well they're doing in their lives, not by actual objective metrics that you can look at for how well you're doing in your life and what the state and government and your politicians' representatives are doing for you, but rather by how much worse other people have it than you. Because at that point, you know, the powers that be don't have to do anything to help you. They could just make life worse for people that you don't like. And because you judge your life that way, you'll feel like you're doing better, even though you're not. Anyway, so there was some crazy shit going on in this Tulsi Gabbard speech, and I saw a Majority Report talking about it, so I wanted to give it a sniff. I don't know how much we're going to do with this now. I've already, you know, said enough. I will not get over the fact that these motherfuckers, so this is tpusa, this is cpusa. So, like, they're trying to angle it being, like, for the youth, which is weird as hell. And they're trying to groom the youth into becoming conservative and voting for Republicans. That's the whole point. But they're also conservative. So they find any kind of, like, music that isn't, baby, lock the door and turn the lights down low. Anything that isn't like that to be, like, degenerate and not worthy of anybody's time. And in some instances, they think it should be banned. A lot of conservatives wanted to ban rap music back in the day. But then they have the people walk out at this conservative conference with a bunch of octogenarians in the chat, in the audience, to this fucking garbage trap music.
Are the people.
You are having a crisis of identity. Tulsi Gabbard, all those speakers that are like 80 years old, Tulsi's like in her 40s, 50s, I don't know. There's a lot of old fucks in here. You know, we got a real who's who of people that should not be allowed within several miles of an elementary school. Got Mike Lindell. You got motherfucking James Lindsay and Charlie Kirk. These people who are just really, really interested and obsessed with what's going on in the pants of children. I don't know why this is. That's their words, not mine. They're always worried about these children and their gender and, you know, the so-called mutilation that they have no proof that's happening to it. They're just always really concerned about it, which is very strange to me. This person whose name I remember, that is just a dumbass that I see on Reddit sometimes, I think, Dr. Ben Carson. You know, just real proof that just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're good at another. You got Larry Elder. We got Rob Schneider, Brandon Tatum, any relation to Channing Tatum, and Tucker Carlson. You know, you got some interesting people here. And, you know, Tulsi Gabbard, she already left the left. She left the Democratic Party after getting her progressive bona fides after, you know, resigning from the DNC or whatever to support Bernie. When that didn't work out, and then she ran for president as a Democrat, that didn't work out either. So now she's just a right-winger, and she's trying to keep the lights on that way. You know, some more power to you, I guess. So she's here. You're like, Mike Lindell is walking out to music like this, bro. He's gonna have a heart attack.
The power of the people.
He's gonna have a fucking heart attack. Wait, I just want to see, because somebody timestamped it. Does he actually walk out to shit like this, or did they tone it down? Yeah, man. Yeah, this is the music I think about when Mike Lindell is walking out. When this guy, John Pillow, is walking out to give his theories about the skull shape of a variety of different people. Anyway, like, I don't understand what tpusa is doing. They're having a crisis of identity since their inception, because they're directly targeting kids and, like, young adults, I guess. But it's all old-ass motherfuckers going here to talk. Anyway.
The future of our country is at risk.
That's so true.
And we are the only ones that can save her.
Man, her? Wait, what? What the fuck? You're giving pronouns to the great United States of America? This is some woke garbage. I know she said she left the Democratic Party. I don't believe it. I think she is a sleeper cell operative for the Democratic Party, for Hillary Rodham Clinton, for Joseph Robinette Brandon. Somebody's got to be pulling the strings. That's not a real Republican. That's not a real right-winger. All nations are women. That's why they're called countries. That's true. You know, broad shoulders are for women. That's why they're called broad shoulders. That's also true. That's also true. It's kind of woke, man.
Back in 2003, that oath that says, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And domestic, huh? Do you mean the ones that literally openly stated that they wanted to raid the Capitol building in order to, and I quote, hang Mike Pence, unquote? And also stop the peaceful transfer of power from the duly elected Joseph Robinette Brandon from one Donald Trump? You mean those people? I would argue that those were domestic terrorists, frankly. And a bunch of people have already been locked up. And there are a bunch of Republican Congress people that have also been implicated in that day in a variety of ways. And there have been people making arguments about the 14th Amendment, I believe it is, being used to make it so that they cannot run for office again. And they would have to vacate their office, which I think is a good play, frankly, to these rhinos, or I guess the real Republicans in the eyes of these people.
The sad reality is that many of these very people who raised their right hand and said those words pose a direct domestic threat to the freedom of our country today.
Oh, that's true. That's like the fact that like 99% of all domestic extremist-related killings in the United States for the past decade have been overwhelmingly done by the right wing, specifically white supremacists. You know, like that, like those people. I agree, man. You know, when you're right, you're right. Those people are a pretty big threat to the freedom and safety of American citizens. And, you know, I want people to be as free and safe as possible. So if we could get some people looking at these people that are posting about white supremacist shit online and maybe keep an eye on them, see if they're trying to procure a firearm, because they might try to go and do something with it. The stats just show that, you know, the facts show that. Kind of worrying. Just got to keep watch on them. Now, of course, a lot of the time when this happens, the FBI will come out and be like, yeah, he was on our radar. We were aware that this dude was thinking of doing this for the last fucking 4 months and we did nothing about it. So that's unfortunate. But we're hoping to change that a little bit by, you know, at least there being wait times for gun purchases, red flag laws, a whole bunch of stuff that still allows, you know, good law-abiding citizens to own a firearm. I happen to own a firearm. If they, you know, want to use it for home defense or for sport or, you know, whatever, as long as they're not hurting anybody or themselves with it, be able to have one. But there's a bunch of people that shouldn't. So, yeah, the FBI letting people cook like that, probably not great. There might be, you know, some regulations we could look at, considering the fact that I believe it's the case that 60% of people who are mass shooters end up also having a history of domestic violence. Maybe people who have a history of domestic violence then probably shouldn't be allowed to own a firearm, at least make it a little harder for them to get it, like them having to get it from a friend or family member or from like a back alley somewhere rather than going to Walmart and buying it. Probably a good idea, you know?
So we ask ourselves, how did this happen? How is it that we have people serving in the most powerful halls in this nation who are not only ignoring our Constitution, but taking actions directly to undermine it?
Yeah, like, you know, when they tried to halt the peaceful transfer of power from Donald Trump to Joseph Biden, who ended up winning the election in 2020. Not good, folks. Not good. Like, pointing out the hypocrisy of these people means nothing. And it especially means nothing to Tulsi Gabbard because she is quite literally an empty suit. I think she does have some actual firmly held beliefs that she actually cares about. Like, she is genuinely homophobic, transphobic. She's probably a little racist, you know? Stuff like that. She genuinely wants to make money, and she genuinely wants to make sure people with money are allowed to keep as much of it as possible at the expense of the taxpayer. Yeah, I believe she has those genuinely founded, you know, convictions and ideas, but she's only doing this shit right now because it's a way for her to keep the lights on. That's really it. And, you know, it does have the tandem effect of advancing the suffering of a variety of marginalized groups in this country and around the world, frankly, especially with her very close relationship and fanboying, kind of standing of Narendra Modi in India and her enjoyment of Hindu nationalism, which is not that great. So, like, that's the main reason she's here, is the money. But I think there's also that as well. And I think she is genuine in her hatred for people, so... It's hard to say, like, how much we can really take from this, because pointing out the hypocrisy of Republicans means nothing because they live in a post-truth world. They don't care about reality. They don't care about facts or logic. They just have a kind of world they want to craft. They have a fan fiction that they want to create in real time and then force us all to believe in. And, you know, their denial of reality shouldn't become our problem, but eventually it ends up being our problem. But right now, I'm just doing this for fun, I guess, because I am a sick and twisted individual.
Did they not actually read it?
Yeah, man.
If they had, and don't take it for granted that they have,
then you would find out that the 14th Amendment is not good if you were aiding and abetting domestic terrorists, which a bunch of different people in the Republican Party were.
They would have recognized that our founders saw that power and liberty are natural enemies. Our founders understood that our unalienable rights and freedoms are not given to us by any government or in the individual. They are freedoms bestowed upon us by our Creator and are intrinsic to every single one of us. Our
That's so
government's
true, man.
responsibility is to protect them.
Man, it really is unfortunate just how dirty the optics of the Reddit atheists were and how unlikable they were, because they were so right. I mean, I was also an atheist. I wasn't on Reddit, but I was an atheist and still am. I'm pretty theistic actually, but I'm like, that's in my actual philosophy and my actual positions. When it comes to like policy I would put into practice, I wouldn't make being religiously legal or anything like that. But I would like to see a post-religion world. I won't, but I would like it to happen at some point, because it seems like the majority of what you can see from history for what religion has been able to do for people, it has been weaponized by bad people.
Why is the destruction of our democracy so fucking boring? Not you, Canoe, you hot AF.
No, I'm also boring. But that's a good point. What am I saying? Oh yeah, it seems like a lot of the time religion is just being used by bad people to further bad aims and, make people's lives worse. The unfortunate thing is that religion can actually be helpful for people interpersonally and through building community. It's just that there are a lot of evil people. I've seen Satan hide behind the mask of God many times, and kind of cringe, I think that's the biblical term for it. Not good. But the reason why it's so annoying is because it makes it impossible to have actual arguments or discussions about any of this shit. Because everything that they need to use in an argument, they can just defer to God. Anything they don't know how to explain, they can just defer to God, because that's the entire point of God, right? It's a concept that allows you to explain the unexplainable. Why does the tide go in and out? Well, we don't know. Tide goes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that shit. It must have been God. Turns out, we find out later on that it has some shit to do with the moon somehow. And it's like, oh, well, why is it that lightning is striking and then it's causing a wildfire? It must have been God's wrath. Somebody in that forest, one of those animals was probably being gay with another animal, which does happen a lot in nature. So God had to make quick work of that and decided to do it in a flashy way, no pun intended, by, striking lightning there and causing a wildfire. So turns out that's not actually true. Turns out you can actually explain why lightning happens. But there are so many, what happens after we die? We still haven't figured that out. I think the safest assumption is that nothing does. It seems like what it would be like to be post-death would have been what it would be like to be pre-birth. Do you remember anything about before you were born? Well, no, not really. I'm probably not going to be present after I'm dead. And if that makes you uncomfortable, and if the thought of your loved ones suffering the fate of all humans, which is to die at some point, well, then you might find solace in the idea that there is a heaven that people will go to. So long as they're not kissing boys as a boy or something, doing egregious sins like that. So it's just, you can't argue against it, because by its nature, by its design, it is inarguable. You can't actually do anything about it, which is why it's a very boring conversation, and which is why Republicans need it. They require religion in order to continue to function, because there will be a variety of contradictions that they make. There will be a bunch of lies that they tell. They need a get-out-of-jail-free card when it comes to, oh, well, it's God, it's God, it's God, it's God, it's God. I can't explain any of this shit. I can't give you an actual good reason. All these people on the left are giving me a bunch of counterclaims that actually seem to be founded in science, facts, logical thinking, and I need a way to deal with that, so I'm just going to defer to religion. I'm just going to defer to God, because that's what we've always done as humans. And that's annoying, because I like fighting with people. I think it's fun to argue. I think it's fun to actually have a conversation about something. I don't do it very often, but I enjoy watching other people do it as well, listening to other people do it as well. I like a nice exchange of ideas in the marketplace, of thoughts and opinions. And it's just, you can't really do that with conservatives and Republicans if they're religious. And often, even when they're not, you'd have atheistic or agnostic conservatives out there that will find other ways to justify a variety of unjustifiable shit, of things that you cannot logically reason, because they don't need to care about the truth or reality. They're already delusional. They're fine with being delusional. They might not even know they're delusional. And they're trying to, in real time, craft the fan fiction world that they want to see become reality and try to force us all to believe in it as well. And I'm just not about that, man. I like my fan fiction like everybody else, but I'm not trying to force you to read my fan fiction about how Luffy from One Piece was actually real. And he was a real human being, Monkey D. Luffy, and in our historical, actual, real world. And I'm not trying to explain to you how the Red Line ended up becoming the continents we have today, and the fact that the Grand Line is now seemingly gone. However, the Bermuda Triangle still exists, and that's also a thing in One Piece, so the plot thickens, okay? I have a good case for it being real. I'm not trying to, force you to read all that shit, man. But for some reason, Republicans are. It's very strange. Very cringe.
And around the time of Constitution Day, I got an email saying, hey, you're invited to come to the House floor to be a part of reading the Constitution into the congressional record.
Wow.
I thought, this is awesome. What a great tradition, so that year after year, we're reminded of that oath that we took and what it actually means.
Man, this is supposed to be for the youth, by the way. That's the whole point of Turning Point USA. It's like, we got to energize the youth to vote for Republicans. 18-year-olds out of high school, still in high school, who can vote, college kids. We got to get our finger on the pulse of these children as Republicans. That's what we have to do in order to make sure they can vote Republican, so that they can vote for longer working hours, less money per hour, worse working conditions, and to let their bosses make the most amount of money as is possible while they do it. And they should be excited about that. I can't imagine why they're having trouble. This is some boring shit. You need to be doing Fortnite dances. You need to be talking about Phantom Tax. You need to be, referencing Skibbity Toilet a couple times. You need to refer to the audience as chat rather than, all of you all, my fellow Americans. Famously, I believe it was Obama that was actually trying to refer to the audience as chat. But his team was like, no, you can't do that. You're too future thinking. You're too far forward. The populace is not ready for that kind of righteous shift toward the good and the better. So we're going to have you say, my fellow American, like that. You got to do a little bit to keep me invested, man. Because, this is not it. This is boring as hell. This is 5 hours deep. This is 5 knuckles deep into this CPUSA event. And, we're running on fumes an hour in, probably less than that. Who's the first speaker? Who even is Allie Beth Stuckey? More like Allie Beth Stinky. Feel me? And then Mike Lindell, that's the power player of the night. That's why you put him up front. John Pillow, that's pretty good. That was a good choice.
Doing all that they can to shut down our open marketplace of ideas.
That's
the public
so true,
and
man.
Virtual town squares, anywhere that we can debate our positions.
Yeah, dude.
Sometimes with that fiery debate without fear.
Because Republicans really like debating. That's true. And they're really good at it. Jesus Christ, man. This is just depressing. I don't know where Tulsi Gabbard goes from here. She was on Fox for a little bit. She was standing in for Tucker Carlson before he got yoinked, and Fox News had to settle a lawsuit for literally just lying about, was it Dominion voting machines? And lying about the election being stolen. They had to walk back all that. They kind of tested her out a little bit, but she's not there. She's not a continuous fixture. Maybe she will be in the future, but that was a long time ago they gave her a trial run, and she just didn't have the sauce, I guess. I swear half the people in this crowd wouldn't pass the civics test. Oh, no, absolutely not. You ask them the 3 branches of government, they're going to say, I don't need to know the 3 branches of government, because I know that Donald Trump is my God-given U.S. president to this day. I don't need to know about the other 2. Frankly, we shouldn't even have them. It should just be Donald Trump. Probably be some people in there that actually have that opinion. They gotta get rid of the deep state somehow. It should literally just be Donald Trump running the entire operation. No other government employees. Donald Trump should have to have a position at every single DMV. In fact, we shouldn't even have DMVs. Who needs a license to drive a car? What's next? A license to make toast in your own goddamn toaster?
They're trying to take away our Second Amendment rights, our rights to defend ourselves and our loved ones, and
then turn that gun on the American people 90+% of the time for all domestic extremist-related killings in the United States for the past 10 years. That's true, man. They're trying to take that away from you. It is a God-given American right, and in fact, a tradition to shoot up a mass of innocent civilians. We do it overseas. Why not let, the civilians do it at home a little bit? It's a treat.
Our right to serve as a check on the power of a tyrannical government. They are discriminating against people of faith, especially Christians.
That's what's I knew it. I knew it was happening, and I'm so glad that Tulsi Gabbard is here to tell us, to just shed this awful wool that's been over people's eyes and really deliver the truth, man. Christians, They're under attack. I've been saying this. That's why it's the most popular religion in the United States of America. That's why many of its holidays are part of American tradition, even at a governmental level, even though we should apparently have the separation of church and state. We don't actually have a separation of church and state. We have in God we trust on our money. You know, I'm always saying, you know, one of these most privileged groups in the country is actually under threat. I'm always saying this. By a undefinable enemy that is both all-powerful and super weak and to be laughed at.
Arresting peaceful pro-life protesters, trying to remove God from every facet of our public life. And
yeah, because it shouldn't exist in a governmental way. The founding father, the Revolutionary War, part of that was not only because they didn't want taxation without representation and said fuck the monarchy, which I agreed with. That was quite poggers of them, to be honest with you. That was one of the few W's in our history that we can take all the way home and enjoy it, or have it enjoy you. You know, I don't care which way you swing in that way. But also part of that was that they didn't want a religion forced upon them by the state, or in this case, the monarchy, which was the king. From the UK, bruv, from Britain, or England, whatever the fuck it was. It's a fake country then, it's a fake country now, brother. That was kind of the point. So the idea that in our governmental capacity as a country, we would have any references to religion whatsoever outside of laws protecting people's ability to practice religion, to go to church or mosque or whatever they're going to, is a bit much for me, man. I think it's a bit unconstitutional and shouldn't be done. So that's not really oppression. That's making sure we actually do what the founding fathers wanted us to do in that instance. That's why I own a musket for home defense, like the founding fathers intended. You know, I have a cannon mounted with a grape shot as well, ready to go at a moment's notice should some interloper try to intrude upon my domicile, just like the founding fathers intended.
We are seeing most recently bending over backward, trying to placate pro-Hamas Islamist protesters.
That's so true, man. By the way, Tulsi Gabbard, very Islamophobic, very not a friend of Muslims, historically and in the modern day. She doesn't care about Israel. She just doesn't want Muslims. And she likes that the right-wing government in Israel also agrees with her in that way.
Islamist apologists themselves, or they're afraid of being called Islamophobes.
And this was way back when she was still in the Democratic Party, too. This is not new. She was also pretty homophobic back then as well.
Turning a blind eye to the ever-escalating levels of anti-Semitic attacks.
Yeah, man. I'm really concerned about anti-Semitism, which is why I'm at the Turning Point USA conference with such classics as Charlie Kirk, a friend of the Jews. Charlie Kirk definitely hasn't said anything suspicious when it comes to Jewish people. Certainly didn't get into a fight with noted anti-Semite who had dinner with Donald Trump and the artist formerly known as Kanye West, Ye, who got in a war between their fan bases and each other because they both believed literally the same thing, but disagreed on the optics of being Nick Fuentes and being a closet case gay boy that wants to watch Euphoria with his boyfriends, 2 words, though he wants it to be 1, and literally had a fight with them because they agree on the same shit, but they thought, you know, it might be more efficacious to be Turning Point USA and not Nick Fuentes, so that they could have people like Tulsi Gabbard on without it being a red flag and have people not want to come up because they know this Charlie Kirk guy just happens to agree with Nick Fuentes' positions wholesale. But that's why we got to go to the Turning Point USA conference, man. So I'm just really concerned about anti-Semitism when the Republican Party definitely does not have a history of anti-Semitism. Certainly not. I don't know, man. It's just a little suspicious. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe bad judgment, you know? Maybe she didn't know what Turning Point USA was. Because why should anybody? I find that hard to believe, though.
These Democrat elite continue to violate our Fourth Amendment rights, a right to privacy and protection against warrantless search and surveillance, defending gross violations of our civil liberties by the secret FISA court in Section 702, supporting Department of Justice's weaponization of law enforcement against the Biden-Harris administration's political opponents.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw this earlier when I was looking through the chat before we started watching it. We're not going to watch this whole thing, by the way. This Jesus Lover 122 says, anti-Semitism, mocking the concept or the idea that anti-Semitism is on the rise. I was wondering what this was about, because this was before I heard her say anything about it. But then she literally alluded to the idea that anti-Semitism was bad. And it doesn't seem like Jesus Lover 122 is agreeing with her that it is, and is actually mocking her for even bringing it up. And maybe they don't even think anti-Semitism is real. Who knows?
Inauguration speech, he promised to bring our country together, to be a president for all Americans, no matter who they voted for. And he promised to get us closer to peace. He has done the exact opposite.
Oh, what a mic drop moment. This is so boring, dude. That's why I keep looking at the chat. I forgot I was there.
Targeting anyone who didn't vote for him or dares to challenge his administration. He's racializing everything, turning him...
This person gets it. This person really has exited the Matrix. From Squirrel Master. She's only here because Democrats can't get a populist movement going. She's here to pull us left, not here for us to pull them right. Yeah, man. She's such a bleeding heart lefty. I can really tell by what she's talking about in this instance. She's so anti-conservative. I agree. She's a sleeper agent sent by Joe Brandon himself. She was literally in the DNC. She stepped down to support Bernard Sanders, the one true communist incarnation of Karl Marx, and Lenin. I call him Lenin. That's what I call him. There's no way. There's no way she's not a sleeper cell. I agree, Squirrel Master. You are on to something.
Americans against each other and putting us in a position where the world is on fire. We are on the brink of multiple wars and close.
Yeah, whose fault is that, man? Whose fault? The world's on fire. How about yours? That's the way I like it. I'll never get bored. You know? Enough said. Need I say more? Who put the world on fire, man? Who keeps supporting policies and is actively calling the fact that the world is on fire a lie? I don't know. It's hard to say which side of the aisle is doing this. Now, of course, that could be a figure of speech because she goes on to talk about how the wars are happening. But also, Republicans have never met a war they didn't like until Donald Trump came about. It was literally standard Republican policy, and the people in the country were so excited to support whatever war because we were going to get them goddamn Muslims. People absolutely shit their pants in excitement about the Iraq War, a little bit less so about Afghanistan. And now Donald Trump bursts onto the scene and talks about how it was a bad idea to go into Iraq because it was, and now even Republicans are saying that. But that's new, and also I don't think they believe it. Because Donald Trump ended up ramping up drone strikes anyway. And we thought Obama was the drone strike king. God damn. Got some competition. So, like, the idea that it is the Democratic Party that is causing us to be on the brink of war is insane. It's both of the parties, man. I don't know how you could talk about, like, oh, no, it's both parties. That's why I left the left. And also, there are some Republicans she mentions in the beginning of her speech that are rhinos that are bad. Oh, it's both of them. But all of the shit that I'm saying that's bad is all Democrats. It's always Democrats. It's always the left.
These are just a few reasons why I left the Democratic Party.
Man, she said we are closer to nuclear annihilation than ever before, and then she cracked a smile about it. What the fuck?
The world is on fire. We are on the brink of multiple wars and closer to nuclear catastrophe than ever before.
What the hell? What are you smiling for? This is not the face I make when I talk about how concerned I am about a nuclear catastrophe happening. But maybe I'm just different, okay? Maybe there was just a different seed when I was generated.
These are just a few reasons why I left the Democratic Party.
They love that. You should have led with that, Tulsi. I'm falling asleep over here until now.
I could no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness.
None of these words are in the Bible. None of these words, man, are in the Bible. You're gonna have to point them to me. She said an elitist cabal that are led by evil wokeness. What is she talking about?
Remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness.
So they're mongering for war, but they're also cowardly in the way that they're doing it. Whereas we should be mongering for war, but in like a brave way. In like a, yeah, let's go kill those brown people kind of way. That's, I think, what she's saying here. I think I understood that one. I mean, she does hate Muslims. So, I mean, it's not a bad guess. Notice how few applauses we've gotten. And then she just dropped like a nuke on the audience that she left the Democratic Party. And then she said the word wokeness. And they were like, that's my goddamn president. She should have won. She should have been the Democrat. She would have turned Republican if she won. Man, it's so easy.
The party that I joined over 20 years ago, which was once a party that largely stood up for free speech, that stood up for working people in this country,
That's blasphemous to suggest to this crowd. Hello? To the people in this crowd, the only good Democratic Party was before the party switch, when they were just the Republican Party, but they didn't switch yet. She got some good applauses, and now she's saying some crazy shit.
stood up for civil liberties is gone.
Yeah, man, that's
the
right.
The bottom line is this: a political party that is actively undermining our constitutional freedoms cannot be trusted, and we, the people, cannot allow them to remain in power.
Man, if she was saying a lot of this shit, but she was just not talking about the Democrats, like if she was a Democrat, which of course she is, and she's a wolf in sheep's clothing, a lot of this is surprisingly accurate when it comes to the Republican Party. Now, obviously not this shit about elitist cabal, because that kind of terminology, it's a bit sketchy. I don't know. Like, if you're going to talk about how anti-Semitism's on the rise and you supposedly don't like that, I'm not sure that she even said she didn't like it. Maybe she just brought it up like, yeah, anti-Semitism's on a rise. She expected an applause break. Maybe. I don't know. Possible. But if you're going to refer to there being an elitist cabal controlling the country and the world, you know, you're going to have to provide data, information, proof of that happening. Because otherwise you just kind of sound a little sus. I don't know, man. I'm getting bored.
So as we head into this next election year, which is coming upon us very quickly, man, beware.
It is coming upon us.
We're dealing with people who have no respect for the rule of law.
That's so true, man. That's why I'm in support of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, who have definitely not had any legal troubles whatsoever. It's just a fucking clown show, man. It is a clown fiesta. It's like taking Cro-Magnon men to the zoo. You can't corral these people. It's not possible. They don't know what's going on. They got crazy ideas. You can't bring a Neanderthal to a zoo and expect them not to try to hunt the lion. They're going to jump in there. They're completely detached from the conventions of civilized society.
We should not be surprised if they declare new unnecessary counterproductive wars of choice, whether cold wars or hot wars, to stoke fear and try to force us into submission.
Yeah, that's right. That's, when I talk about what one of the parties is doing in this country and has historically, I'm always talking about people are trying to scare people about issues that aren't actually real and use that to make you vote for them and scare you into submission. I'm always thinking of the Democratic Party. I'm never thinking about the Republican Party when you describe it in that way. It's just the Democrats. It's certainly not both of them. And it's certainly not the Republican Party that's doing it more and is literally known for it and has admitted to it and even had a name for it called the Southern Strategy. Anyway, I'm bored as hell. This was a mistake. You shouldn't have watched this. But you did. And if that is the case, I might be able to get you to watch anything. So my transition to video game Let's Plays, instead of doing any of this political shit, if you could even call it that, I might just start being a video game streamer. Because clearly, if you're here watching this, I could do anything. Anyway, yeah, I'm out.